normally catches somebody off guard, something that they didn't even see coming.
Some people don't realize that compensation for a surrogate sort of happens in real time as she goes through certain milestones or, the pregnancy itself, even her base compensation, that's paid out in monthly installments when she's actually pregnant. They don't realize all the cost factors that go into that. And of course, then if you add on, well, maybe she had more bed rest than expected, or, all these things, it gets very confusing for people. They're like, oh, wow, I didn't think about all that. I just figured she got a base compensation and that's all said and done. And then that, and also insurance. A lot of people don't understand the insurance side of things. Even if she has insurance, how it works, how all that happens. And a lot of people do assume they can use their own personal insurance to cover the surrogate pregnancy. I get a lot of people thinking that's how that works, but we really have to look at the surrogates insurance because that's going to be the determining factor of what that's going to look like financially. Either she has insurance or she doesn't. We're going to have to look at that to see, okay, is it surrogate friendly at that point? Everyone will have their own personal insurance. It's whether or not we can use it for a surrogate pregnancy at that point.
I mean, I've been doing this now 18 years, and in 18 years, I've only had one set of intended parents whose insurance policy covered the surrogate's medical care during the pregnancy. And that was 1 in 18 years. And they had a very unique medical situation. They had a very unique insurance policy. It is not common whatsoever for somebody's insurance to cover the surrogate's pregnancy. Now, there are fertility benefit programs that will help cover cost for surrogacy, but that cost might be they're going to cover some of the agency fees, or they'll cover some of the professional fees, or, they might cover something at the fertility clinic. But it is very, very rare that they're going to cover anything as far as the surrogate's compensation. And just as rare is that they're going to cover the surrogate's actual pregnancy for the entire pregnancy. It's like an anomaly.
And I mean, when you think about it, it does make sort of sense to people like, well, this person's carrying my child and my child would be going on to my insurance. And they assume that, I think, is the biggest thing where they're like, oh, okay, wow, I didn't even think about it. Because a lot of people do assume that they could put their surrogate onto their own personal insurance during the actual pregnancy itself. So that's a big misconception for sure. And I get a lot of questions regarding that insurance, and then also how the compensation works. And if things are to happen, what that looks like, just really going through those things. And also how we're paying this out and how do I start to financially plan this out too? Because not only does surrogacy take patience, but it does take almost a financial planning aspect for sure, to get through this.
Well, I think that's probably one of the biggest things is people call around to find out the process and all of that. But one of the biggest pieces is getting with financial planner to kind of plan through what that cost is going to be and have the contingencies also in place, because you just never know. Be able to then also be prepared emotionally for all of the things that could happen. And, luckily there's thousands of journeys that happen throughout the year, and the majority of them are good, but there are some that it doesn't work out. It just, you've gone through it. You've used all the embryos that you have. You don't have any more embryos. You're running out of money, and what are your options? And now you're stuck.
That's the thing that I don't like too about a lot of this gimmicky sort of marketing out there where they say you're guaranteed to bring a baby home and things like that. There's no guarantees in this. You can definitely have hope. You come in, having patience about the process, but at the same time, there's no guarantee of anything. That's the unfortunate side of things. So all you can do is sort of just overestimate, overplan it. And also, I always, going into my own infertility journey, where's our end here? Where's the true end to this? Because it's such an emotional process. You can start losing yourself in this process too. And if you do have a husband or a partner to lean upon to go through this with, have that hard conversation. Okay, where does this actually end for us? How many assets can you start having to sell before you then want to keep moving forward? You're like, where's the end result going to be here? Where are we going to stop? Especially when you run out of the funds and embryos, and you have to make hard decisions at that point. But you have to come into it knowing there are a lot of options out there, but where would we stop? Would we ever consider certain things? Would we consider donor? Would we consider, all these things to be able to move forward. It's great having that conversation beforehand before you get too deep into it and the emotions are so high too, especially when you're going through failed transfers and then no embryos left. Have these conversations before so that you both are on the same page. And when you get to that point, know, hey, we know this was where we were stopping at that point.